Hello, this is Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your comments, and thank you for your thumbs up. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. And yes, we are commanded to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. And today we're talking about Caribbeans and Black American history. The people of the Caribbean are concerned, and rightly so, of being written out of Black American history. Now that Black Americans have drawn the line in the sand and said Black History Month is for and about Black American descendants of slavery, the Caribbeans are questioning the fairness of it. So we don't have to hide anything or take anything away from anybody. So in this video, I'm going to honor the contributions made to Black American history by people from the Caribbean without rewriting the order of events or the foundation of Black American history. So let's get started. So let me begin with this. Black American history was already solid, complete, and centuries deep before Caribbean immigration to the United States even began in meaningful numbers. That's not shade and that's not division. That's just the historical timeline. Black Americans are a foundational population in this country. Our story begins in the 1600s. At least that's when it is written and documented. Our culture, our institutions, our political movements, all of that was already established long before the 20th century immigration waves. Because remember, Black immigrants to the United States did not start coming in significant numbers until after the passing of the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965. So our history was already firmly established in this country in 1965. So when we talk about contributions, we have to start with the truth. Black America was not an empty stage waiting for anyone else to arrive. So let's begin there. Okay, y'all, we're going to keep it classy. We're going to be firm, but we're going to keep it classy. By the time the Caribbean immigrants began coming to the United States in significant numbers, Black Americans had already built the Black church, created blues, jazz, gospel, R&B, rock, and soul. Black Americans had established HBCUs, which there are over 100 now, fought in every American war, reshaped the Constitution through Reconstruction, led the Civil Rights Movement, and created Black History Week, which later became Black History Month. So that was already a library of accomplishments. This is not my opinion. This is documented American history. So when Black Americans say Black History Month is for Black American history, that's not exclusion. That's definition. It's honoring the people whose history happened here on this soil, under this government, inside this specific struggle. When Caribbean immigrants came to the United States, they entered a Black American cultural world that already existed. And once they were here, many of them contributed beautifully. They brought talent, they brought discipline, they brought brilliance, and they added to the momentum that Black Americans had already created. But the key point, respectfully, is this. Those contributions were made in America, not Jamaica, not Trinidad, not Barbados, not Haiti, America. Their impact happened inside Black American institutions, movements, and communities, inside the spaces that we had already created. Let's name a few people whose work is often highlighted. Shirley Chisholm, daughter of Barbadian and Guyanese immigrants, the first Black woman in Congress. Let me add that she is the first Black woman, not the first Black person. There were Black men in the United States Congress as far back as 1870. There's also Harry Belafonte of Jamaican parents. He was a major ally of the civil rights movement. Harry Belafonte was also an actor and a singer during the days of Nat King Cole, Sammy Davis Jr., and Johnny Mathis. For the longest time, he held out as a badge of courage the fact that he had married a white woman in 1957 when it wasn't legal. So, for the longest time, whenever he was interviewed in a magazine or on television, he bragged about marrying this white woman in 1957 because Loving versus Virginia wasn't passed until 1967 when the Supreme Court struck down the laws prohibiting interracial marriage. So he bragged about that until it went stale and he realized people didn't care about that. That was when he started promoting himself as a civil rights activist. I just thought I would throw that in. And we would never leave off this list Sidney Poitier, a Bahamian, a brilliant, gifted, and talented actor that we adored in film and on stage. Sidney Poitier will always be a favorite because he carried himself with such dignity. But here's the thing Sidney Poitier was the replacement for Paul Robeson, a gifted, outstanding, and brilliant foundational Black American actor, singer, and athlete who spoke out against the injustices happening to Black people in the United States. He took a bold stand. Paul Robeson spoke openly about anti lynching legislation, labor rights, colonialism, global Black liberation, and U.S. hypocrisy on democracy. He also criticized the United States government's treatment of Black Americans on the world stage. In the 1940s and 1950s, that was enough to get you labeled a threat. And they revoked his passport in the 1950s. He couldn't perform abroad, he couldn't earn income, he couldn't travel to film or stage opportunities. He was cut off from his international audience. This was economic strangulation. In other words, Hollywood blackballed him. Paul Robeson was systematically silenced by the United States government and the entertainment industry. His passport was revoked, his concerts were canceled, his films were suppressed, he was labeled a threat, and he was blacklisted across every major industry. Hollywood didn't just move on from Paul Robeson, they were told to move on from Paul Robeson. But in the aftermath of all of that came the civil rights movement. Paul Robeson was born in 1898. He spent the time from college, where he was an outstanding athlete, building his career as a singer and an actor. But he was punished for speaking out against injustice and for caring about humanity. Paul Robeson represents the best of the Black American spirit because neither fame nor fortune made him look away from the injustice that he saw around the world, not just in the United States. In a free and fair world, both Paul Robeson and Sidney Poitier should have been able to thrive and flourish in America. In the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, Hollywood had only one spot for a Black man to rise and shine. Paul Robeson earned that spot. But because of his activism and because he wouldn't back down when they told him to, he was removed, and Sidney Poitier got that spot. These individuals of Caribbean ancestry made their mark as Americans inside American systems, often standing on the platforms built by Black Americans long before they arrived. That's not diminishing their contribution. That's placing their contributions in the correct historical context. So let's address the tension. Caribbean and African alike get salty when Black Americans draw boundaries around Black History Month. But boundaries are not disrespect, boundaries are clarity. Black History Month was created to honor the specific, unique, irreplaceable history of Black Americans, the people whose blood, labor, and legal battles shaped this country from the ground up. Caribbean and African immigrants have their own rich histories, but those histories happened in their home countries. Black History Month is about the people whose history happened here in the United States of America. That's not divisive, that's accurate. If Caribbean communities are concerned and want their contributions acknowledged during Black History Month, that conversation has to start with respect for Black Americans and our history. We don't need to add anything to our story to make it whole. It already is. Any recognition we extend is from a place of generosity, not necessity. In closing, let me say this plainly and respectfully. Caribbean immigrants came to America. They assimilated into Black American culture. They got on our square, and naturally, they brought their own gifts, just as we bring ours. And many of them contributed in powerful ways. But those contributions were made within Black America, not instead of it. They added to a house that Black Americans built. And acknowledging that truth doesn't diminish anyone. It simply keeps the historical order clear. All right, y'all, thank you for listening. Let me know what you think about the video. Keep warm out there and have a wonderful day.